Val'anyr is one of two legendary weapons that we're going to see in Wrath of the Lich King Classic, with Val'anyr coming very, very soon. Hopefully, anyway. But as soon as Phase 2 comes, you as a healer will be able to get your hands on it. We're going to talk about how. We're going to go through the few steps that you need to do to be able to get your hands on this weapon, as well as giving you a bit of an average amount of weeks or resets inside Ulduar before you can expect to craft your first one. But first, just a quick word from our sponsor of today's video, Warcraft Tavern. This is the second video Warcraft Tavern have sponsored, and it was a really good time to do it because actually they have a guide on their website on how to get Val'anyr, as well as how to get Shadowmourne. It's all broken down into easy to digest steps, so it doesn't matter which weapon you're trying to get, you'll have a full breakdown on how you're going to go about it, including some useful macros. They've also recently updated loads of their professions, classes, and raid guides to more accurately represent what's going on as we stand today in Wrath of the Lich King Classic. So if you're playing a Holy Paladin, a Blood DK, a Frost Mage in PvP, or even a Resto Shaman, go and have a look. But class guides, profession guides, and raid guides are really just a small portion of what they've actually got to offer on here. They've got much, much more than that, including reputations, DPS rankings, tools such as server populations, glyphs, dungeons and raid loot, daily quest guides for every single zone, and profession-related dailies, as well as achievement guides, holiday events, and just so much more. As far as a resource goes, there is a lot of stuff on it outside of just worrying about going and looking at class guides, for example. We've got Pilgrim's Bounty coming up soon, which is going to be a world event where you can get cooking up very quick. And they've even got a guide for that, which I'll also mention when I get round to doing the Pilgrim's Guide anyway. But thanks Warcraft Tavern for sponsoring the video. How are we going to get Val'anyr? First of all, we might as well have a look at the weapon. So Val'anyr is a 245 item level weapon as it stands, but we know there's going to be changes to the Ulduar item level, with it possibly going up by 12 item level or potentially only going up by 6 item level. But either way, it's a very, very good weapon, and what makes it really strong is the proc. So your healing spells have a chance to cause Blessing of the Ancients for 15 seconds, allowing your heals to shield the target, absorbing damage equal to 15% of the amount healed. Now this is a buff on you, so you get the buff, not the player. The player will also receive a buff when you heal them, but for 15 seconds, every heal that you cast on everybody, as the tooltip says, 15% of that is also going to shield them. So it's not like it procs on a person and then you're like, oh damn it, I really didn't want it to go on the mage, I wanted it on the tank. That doesn't matter. You got 15 seconds, you're in full control of the proc. Pretty sick. So the proc itself is called Blessing of Ancient Kings, and when you actually heal someone and it puts the absorb on them, that's called Protection of Ancient Kings. With the massive holy lights, for example, from a Holy Paladin, you can see why everyone sort of automatically just says, oh, it's a Holy Paladin weapon, because the bigger your heal, the bigger the absorb. Now, this video isn't where we sit and discuss who should get Val'anyr, whether it is the Holy Paladin, Resto Druid, Resto Shaman, or a Priest, but you can guarantee that video will come at some point. Instead, we're more bothered about how do you go and get Val'anyr. Now, this is a really simple one in terms of legendaries, because until you actually start killing 25-man bosses, there's nothing you can do to progress towards it. So each 25-man boss has got around a 7 to 10% chance to drop a fragment of Val'anyr. Now you need 30 of these fragments in total to form the Shattered Fragments of Val'anyr, which when you've got the Shattered Fragments of Val'anyr, it will start a quest called Ancient History. First, let's talk about the fragments. So like I said, you've got a 7 to 10% chance, around that at least, of getting a frag from each boss, whereas hard mode bosses, including Algalon, have got a 15 to 20% chance of dropping a fragment, and Yogg-Saron, which is the last boss in the raid, will always drop a fragment. So if you was the unluckiest person in the world, you should always, doing a full clear of 25-man, expect 1 fragment. The easiest way to really look at this is, if you're just an average person with an average amount of luck, you're probably going to get around 3 a week. So you're going to definitely get 1 every reset from Yogg, providing you're doing a full clear, and odds are you're going to get at least another 2 along the way. So the maximum amount of time on average, the average maximum, something like that, you're looking at about 10 weeks. 10 weeks for each weapon, or 10 full clears of Ulduar. Now, that's not to say that you can't get incredibly lucky, do all 4 hard mode keepers, for example, and get a frag off of every one, and get 1 from Yogg. Maybe you got lucky and got 1 from XT. You absolutely could get 6, 7 in a run, or even more. But, if we're saying the average amount you're probably going to see each week for your healer that's going for Val'anyr first will be 3 to 4. So somewhere between 8 to 10 resets of Ulduar per weapon. When you're probably doing split runs or something like that in your guild, it's not going to take that long to see one of these. And when I say split runs, if you've got like 2 of your main healers in, 1 in each split group, you could get 2 of your main healers, these weapons, pretty fast. I mean, 8 to 10 weeks is not that long to get a legendary when all you're actually doing is the content as required, if you know what I mean. You're just basically clearing the raid each week. So what happens next? Once you've got your 30 fragments, you've turned it into the shattered fragments, and then you've started the quest Ancient History, you need to go to the Archivum console behind Iron Council. So you'll probably be familiar with this already, because if you've done one of the 2 harder mode versions of Iron Council, you'll get a disc, which you'll also need to go to this console to actually progress into being able to summon Algalon. This is pretty much it. You're now at the final stage. So you'll get the quest called Val'anyr, Hammer of Ancient Kings. And what it requires you to do is throw the shattered pieces of Val'anyr into Yogg-Saron's maw while he's casting Deafening Roar, and defeat Yogg-Saron and recover the reforged Hammer of Ancient Kings. This can only be completed in heroic mode, and only if at least one Ulduar watcher is not assisting you, which basically means you've got to do the easiest of the hard mode version of Yogg, basically. So you can do it with 3 keepers instead of 4, which is not an issue at all. There's very little difference between 4 keepers and 3 keepers, so you haven't got to worry. You'll be able to do this as soon as you've got your quest item, basically. So when you're actually on Yogg, you need to get past the first couple of phases, and it's not until you've killed the brain, where you actually go inside the portals, that you need to start worrying about anything. In phase 3, he'll periodically do an ability called Deafening Roar, which deals loads of damage and silences for 4 seconds. It's got a couple of second cast time, and whilst this is going on, this is when you need to plunge your unbound fragments of Val'anyr into the boss. It's very easy to see even without DBM when it's going on, because the boss's mouth just opens really, really wide so you can see he's casting it, and there's no cast time on throwing the unbound fragments in. It's an instant cast on a 20-second cooldown. So if for some reason you miss it, as long as you're waiting another 20 seconds for the next one, there's no problem. Once you've thrown it in, it will get a debuff saying in the maws of the old god, where the fragments of Val'anyr are now inside Yogg-Saron's physical body, which now means all you need to do is kill the boss, loot the boss, and you'll get the reforged Hammer of Ancient Kings. Now you just go back to the console behind Iron Council where you started this, and congratulations, you've now got Val'anyr, Hammer of Ancient Kings. And that's about it, healers. So if you wondered what you've got to do to get it, now you know. And to be fair, it's not that complicated. It's not a really hard one. There's no big, long quest chains. It's just, you need to just pray that you're really lucky and get loads of fragments drop each week. Quicker you get all those, quicker you can just go and kill Yogg plus 3 and get your weapon. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like, subscribe, roll the outro. There's lots of ways you can support the channel to keep me here putting out World of Warcraft content and covering all future MMOs. Consider joining the channel as a member. You get access to emotes, everyone will know you're a member when you comment on future videos because you get a nice icon next to your name, and you get access to members-only videos, which I'll be putting a lot of on the channel throughout the year. Additionally, there's a Patreon link in the description as well. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you on the next one.